Hey everyone, welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin Sully, joined by Lincoln Shrike, and on today's show, we have Nia Akins, the year's top NCAA 800-meter runner. She announced last week that she's turning pro with the Brooks Beast. Nia, thank you so much for hopping on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. I know we caught you right as you moved from the Northeast to the Northwest in Seattle.
hmm
What are your first impressions of your new home there?
I really like it. The weather is a lot nicer. I really like that it's like 60, 70 degrees all the time. It was getting less and less fun by the day training in Philly in the 90-degree weather. So the weather is nice, despite what people say about Seattle.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why the Brooks Beast. I know they don't have a women's 800-meter runner specifically that you can train with. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of why you decided to join that team?
Yeah, I looked at all of the options more holistically, and kind of considered, what the brand had to offer and what the environment had to offer. Everybody knows that I do have a nursing interest, and Brooks, from the beginning, just basically verbalized that they're willing to work with me if I do want to pursue nursing on the as well on the side. And they also have another like a couple really cool opportunities within the brands. Like they do internships in the fall for their athletes within the company. So I think it's just a great opportunity for me to enter the pro world and learn a lot about it really quickly because I do have the opportunity to work with all aspects of the brand really closely here. And I came to visit in the fall, and I absolutely loved all of the girls here. There definitely aren't, there isn't a true 800-meter runner, as you were saying, but I do benefit more so from having people around for strength workouts, like 15 and up, and they have plenty of those girls here. So I definitely will have training partners and we will be well taken care of. So I'm excited.
As far as we know, you're the first 2020 collegiate to sign a professional shoe sponsor contract, after the coronavirus shortened everybody's season. Can you discuss some of like the roadblocks specifically? I know you said you were being courted back in the fall, but how challenging it was after March when indoors was canceled and the rest of the outdoor season canceled. How challenging was it to make this decision and to sign a deal, given all the restrictions and maybe brands tightening their belts a little bit? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, it was pretty challenging because I did have, honestly, visits set up kind of during the outdoor season, and I just couldn't really go on those visits. But the places that I did visit, I felt pretty strongly about. And like Brooks was obviously one of those places. So I didn't really see myself really falling in love with another place. And I really just wanted to focus on the options that I had visited, and I knew everything about them. So that was kind of, I think that was the biggest roadblock, is kind of not really seeing all of the places that I wanted to look, but I did get the opportunity to see my top two or three, which are the ones that I prioritized. So I think, when all the chips fell, it worked out pretty well. I think another thing that honestly was kind of worked more in my favor was just having a lot of time to decide what I wanted to do. Obviously, with the season shaping up the way that it would have been with NCs and then Olympic trials right after, signing probably would have fell in between that time. So I had a lot of time to really think about the decision I was making and coming to Brooks and moving and everything like that, which I think really helped with my decision and helped me feel really confident in my decision too. So there were some benefits to it.
You mentioned your nursing degree that you got from the University of Penn. Can you tell me how you want to? I know you're going to be focusing on being a professional athlete, but what's your future as a nurse? And like, will you do any work on the side as you're pursuing your running career? Like, what are your plans for? I don't want to say your primary career, but what you got your degree in from school?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to definitely work as a nurse alongside running professionally. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I figured out this portion first because obviously I want to be with the team and I want to be at practice and stuff like that. And nursing shifts are a little, they're slightly more flexible, but they do take up a lot of time during the day. So I wanted to start slow, really get acclimated to the environment and my surroundings and the team and training and everything, and then eventually add a nursing job on top of that, which might start off being part-time, and just see if I can handle it and go from there. So, yeah.
Why is that? I mean, why is that so important to you? Is it because you're looking at your future post career, or nursing in particular is something that you're just extremely passionate about? Like, why do you want to continue it at the same time? You are so good at this running thing.
Yeah, it is something that I'm extremely passionate about, but nursing is very similar to track in that like if you're not in the hospital and you're not dipping your toes in the clinical environment, that you're kind of losing a lot of skills, and like
Mm,
over time that kind of adds up, and then it gets harder to come back, when you are ready. So I'm trying to be cognizant of that and trying to figure out a way for me to still be in the clinical environment and practice those skills, so when it is time for me to switch over to nursing full time, I'm not completely murdered by the by the expectations and by the schedule and everything. So
mhm. I want to go back to the indoor season after the meet was canceled. I think it was a couple weeks later. I talked to Steve Dolan, the coach there at Penn, and he mentioned how well you handled that whole season, or that whole trip to Albuquerque, and pointed to the fact that you were a nursing major, so you more than anybody was equipped to know a lot about what was going on with the pandemic. But you were such a big favorite. I can't believe there wasn't just some disappointment in there. Can you take me through your thought process from when you were touching down in Albuquerque through maybe the week after, the stages that you went through, um, emotionally, knowing that your indoor and outdoor seasons, one where you would presumably at least have one title, maybe more, weren't going to happen
yeah.
this year?
Yeah. Coach Dillon doesn't give himself enough credit. He handled the situation very well too, and I think so did my trainer and everyone around me. We were all just cracking jokes and making light of the situation, which made it a lot better. Because we had just landed, when we heard the news, and I think all of us had a million notifications on our phones, and we were like, "This can't be good." But we kind of knew on the way there that decision was looming. So it was definitely hard to find out, especially when we were walking through the airport and like there were all of the signs like "Welcome NCAA track" and everything like that. But I think, I mean, when the dust all settled, I kind of realized, and Coach Dolan helped me realize too, that like I was in a really good spot going into it, and I felt like from a training standpoint, we were further along than we were for BU. So it kind of helped me honestly train through all of quarantine up to now, to stay focused and try and gear up and get ready for next year, because I felt like I had more on the table, which I think is almost more refreshing and more satisfying, from a training standpoint, than thinking like that was it and that was my moment. I have to keep believing that it's hopefully in the future. So yeah.
Nia, I read last night your article in Runner's World that you wrote about the time recently where you were racially discriminated against, and kind of had a scary moment in the park. And given the reckoning that the kind of the world is going through, especially our country right now, with racial bias and mistreatment of African Americans, I'm wondering how you've processed the whole the Black Lives Matter movement, and what you think the how the track community can kind of be a beacon going forward, and given that there is so many African Americans in the sport like yourself, I'm just wondering what you think your role and other African Americans and everyone's role is, and maybe showing the world how we can improve things like that. Because I asked that just because you compared it to running, so it felt
Yeah.
natural to think like, well, what can track and field do given our high African American and minority representation in the sport?
Yeah. I think I mentioned, like you said, and I think Mariel Hall in her Runner's World article, before, compared it to running as well. And it's just, I think we're very used to being uncomfortable. We have to do it every single time we toe the line. And this is a situation that calls for a lot of discomfort. So I think naturally it makes sense for runners in their respective communities, outside of running and within running, to kind of take charge on this situation and kind of help navigate other people feeling uncomfortable and support them through this, and have conversations with people, um, you know, tell people, how important it is to vote, which I know, like for some, is another uncomfortable conversation, and kind of address what's racist and what's anti-racist, because the reality is kind of being in the middle, just it doesn't work. So it's just super important that we're having these conversations, and we're being actively anti-racist right now and always, but especially looking forward to the future.
I know you can experience racism anywhere that you live, but you talked about that specific moment, and I'm curious if shifting from the East Coast to the West Coast had anything to do with maybe a different scene you wanted to experience. I not saying that one city is worse than the other, but was moving out there, was the thinking maybe that you would have different experiences in Seattle than you would in possibly Philadelphia?
I definitely came out here for I think a huge part of it was the fact that it is a new adventure, especially with COVID and everything. I think me staying in Philly just kind of grew a little stale over time, quite frankly, because a lot did happen there within the past several months. And I think on top of COVID, and then the Black Lives Matter movement and everything kind of stacking up on top of that, it was really refreshing to come out here. But these are problems everywhere, no matter where you go, and I really anticipated that being no different here, especially in Seattle. So yes and no, if that makes sense.
Nia, typically in these interviews, like the first interview that you give when you turn pro, and Lincoln and I have done several now, and I'm sure you've watched them. It's like, well, what event are you going to focus on? What do you think your PR is going to be? And now we're jumping into the pandemic and all the protests. Do you consider yourself? I mean, at this point, like, do you feel like this was good timing because now I have this platform to speak about these issues, COVID and this systemic racism in the United States, or is part of you're so young, you have your whole career in front of you. How are you balancing all that's going on right now? You just finished college, and the world is shifting right now so dramatically.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever really a good time for anything that's been going on right now, but I think the fact that they are all happening together, it's just kind of, I think it is helpful that they are kind of happening at the same time. But I think with respect to me graduating this year, I think kind of depending on what next year looks like, I mean, that could have been a blessing, that could have been a curse. I don't know. I think I mentioned earlier that the one thing that really bothered me about this year is I just don't think that I'll ever see all of my friends in college in the same
Mm-hmm.
space ever again, just because graduation is pretty much the only time that really happens. But I mean, I know that I'll still be in touch with my closest friends, and we'll continue to talk. So we have technology now and everything like that. So I'm not too upset about it. But yeah, it's definitely tough to navigate, because I felt like at the beginning of quarantine, it was definitely the track community that was really struggling, because athletics were kind of one of the first things to go, and then obviously with COVID, it was nurses, and then now it's just Black Americans and Black people, honestly, everywhere. So I just felt like it was hit after hit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I do have a really great support system in Philly, and coming here, there's no difference, honestly. I have a really great support system here. So I really think we'll come out of this stronger, and the communities that I'm a part of will come out of this smarter too. So I'm excited.
Did you consider, I know it would have been tricky to do it at Penn because of Ivy Leagues giving the extra year of eligibility, but did you consider using an extra year of eligibility and running next outdoor season? Was that ever a thought in your mind?
Honestly, it was not. Maybe I toyed with the idea a little bit, but I kind of
Mhm.
in my mind was thinking 2 years of transitioning, to one, from this program to another one, and then from there to pro, because eventually the goal was to go pro. And I just, at the time, I wanted to be optimistic that the Olympics would happen in 2021, but just also just being protective of that. Just definitely wanted to have more of a cohesive transition. And Coach Dolan has been absolutely great, and and communicating with Coach Mackey, and the transition has been really smooth between the two of them. So I'm really excited about that aspect and training moving forward. And I like the fact that, this is it from here on out. I don't have to worry about moving around again and transitioning, because I think that's when it gets dicey, and that's when injuries, I'm at a higher risk for those, obviously. So, yeah.
Are you optimistic that you'll be able to race this season? Are you thinking proceeding as if like later this summer you'll have a chance to travel to track meets? Or I don't want to put you on the spot just because you're a nurse acting like you have you're like Dr. Fauci or anything, but I'm you do have that expertise. So I'm wondering, like, are you thinking it's a likelihood that it's going to be safe for athletes to travel and compete later this summer?
Yeah. I am optimistic, honestly, that there will be opportunities. I don't know if the safety will be any different than it is now. So I think it's just kind of a matter of like weighing the risks and benefits of racing right now. Because if there were opportunities in this present moment, honestly, I don't think I would take them. But I did schedule to take my boards, my like NCLEX in August, at the end of August, and I've been thinking about maybe I should move it because maybe there might be racing around that time. So we'll see. I might take it a little earlier. So yeah, kind of optimistic if I'm doing that.
I know 2019 was kind of your breakout year as far as being, close to winning 2 national titles and running consistently, running at USA's. What is it that's clicked for you this last year and a half to where you've really elevated yourself from a strong 800-meter runner to now like a someone who's going to be capable of competing on the international stage?
Yeah, I think for 2019, it kind of clicked for me, like as everyone knows, like kind of at the middle of the year, literally at NCAA's in the finals, which is kind of it's a blessing that it clicked at that time because I did really well, but also like, man, if it had clicked sooner in the season, maybe I could have, come in with that mentality and had a better performance. And I think that's the difference between 2019 and 2020 is I came into the cross country season just with the mentality of, I can be competing with the best. I'm going to make a run for the third spot or at the Olympic trials and just really go for it this year and see what I can accomplish and, set some big goals from the beginning versus in the middle of the year. And I think that's made a huge difference. And, every single time I towed the line at practice, and that just translates to racing. So I think that was the biggest difference for me, was coming in with a different mentality.
Did you choose Penn because of the nursing program?
Did, yeah, and the people, honestly, when I came to visit, because it's not a scholarship school. All of the people that are on the team, they just do it because they love it. And I think I really liked that aspect of it too. Just everybody is there, everybody that stays on the team and sticks around and is a part of our program. They're really for Penn Track and they're really for our program. So I think that aspect of it really sold me on the school. But I did come for the nursing school.
You were 208 in high school was your best time, I believe, all the way down to 2 flat in just 3 years at college. How did you what's the reasoning behind that? Because certainly there's women who came into college with faster high school times than you. How did you get down there so quickly?
um, Honestly, I wish I could tell you. Really great teammates and really great coaching, I think. Coach Dolan has been very helpful and very flexible with my schedule, I think was a huge part of it. And just having really supportive teammates and just the opportunities that I did have because, it is an Ivy League school. And I felt like when things came together, when I was, mentally ready, physically not exhausted, I was like, this is the time to strike. And I think it really made me, when I did have the opportunities, really take advantage of them.
Mhm.
And I continued to set bigger goals each year, which was helpful too. So, yeah.
It's no secret that the U.S. is the strongest country in the world in the women's 800. Obviously, with Ajay and Raven, and Hannah Green's also been great. The U.S. final last year that you were in, you had to run 158 to make the team. What do you think you need to improve on to be able to get to that level and to where you're able to run that 158 after 3 rounds? Like, what is it that you're looking to work on, I guess, the most going forward as you step into the pro scene?
Yeah, I think definitely like having the strength to do that is really important. I think last year at USA's, I was like, I had to run a third one. So I think just being ready for that and being able to handle that well and, you know, potentially PR, run faster than the first two, like that's something that I really need to be able to do. So I think that really is where strength comes in. And that's something that I'm working on building. So yeah.
I saw on your Instagram, you seemed like you were bummed to you had posted about your last Heps and not getting to run that outdoor meet. We hear it all the time, but what is the magic of the Heps meet that maybe outsiders, people not in the Ivy League, like don't understand? Because to outsiders looking
Yeah,
in, it's like it's a conference meet, right? But it seems like it's more than
right.
that. What is it with the Ivy League and that championship?
It is more than that. I think, especially indoor HEPs, just because it's indoor track and the environment is just contained, all the excitement and energy. It's just, I think, all of the Ivy League schools, when we come together, it's more of like a family competing, if that makes sense. So you kind of get like if you were to sit down and play Scrabble with your family, it's just very similar to that, just on a larger scale. Everybody's just really supportive of one another, and it's very very loud. And it's just hard to explain. The energy is just contagious, and it just breeds great performances. Just because everybody there is there to support you, and it's just a lot of fun, honestly. Especially obviously for Penn track, we've been doing pretty well there for the past couple of years, so it's been even more fun. But yeah, it's just the family aspect of it, and I think we joke all the time that we're one Ivy. It does get very competitive. I'd be remiss not to say that, but we really are kind of like one team at the end of the day, and I think um, that aspect of the Ivy League shows the most when we come together to compete the HEPs. So.
Which school do you enjoy beating the most from the Ivy League?
Am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Well, I
It'll be
can't
just
say
between
Cornell.
us.
We went to the UK with Cornell.
Oh.
Maybe Princeton. So we'll see.
Princeton. All
I
right.
don't
Who
know.
were who were your who are your idols, if you had any, within track growing up? Because you certainly had, there were a lot to choose from, because American mid-distance running was really good during the time that I'm assuming you began running, or at least were running at a high level enough to envision yourself having a career. Who did you idolize growing up?
Yeah, I think a big one for me, because this is kind of when I started to really get into track and field and watch it more competitively, especially the NCAA at the time, because I was entering college, and that would be like Raven Rogers.
Hmm.
I just remember like watching her just completely like dominate every single NCAA, and just it's so hard to do and so underrated, I think, even now. But I think I definitely have spent a lot of time just kind of watching her kind of go through NCs and do it really well. And I think that was really inspiring and really motivating for me coming into college, because I think like if somebody can do that, then like the sky's the limit, if that makes sense. So it's just it kind of helped me come in and really dream big and aim high, because I think she even mentions that it seemed crazy to win as a freshman, but she did it. So I kind of thought like it's probably it'd be crazy to win from a school that just like doesn't really have an NCAA champion, but it doesn't hurt to try. Like it could happen. So yeah.
We ask this, it seems like, of every athlete who runs a huge PR at the Boston track, because it's legendarily so fast. But to you, what made that track so special on the day you ran the 2 flat 71?
Yeah, honestly, probably the track is probably very fast. I mean, I ran fast on it, but the people, it was a pretty stacked field, and it was really fun to toe the line with them. I kind of knew going into it, I was like, man, as long as I can hang with these girls, like there's no way I can't run fast. So I think kind of going into it with that mentality and thinking like, there's a huge chance I'll PR here. The track is fast. I'm in a really good heat. People are really fast. And I think that really motivated me to stay on them and stick with it through the end. So.
And if you run too flat outdoors, it doesn't always translate to this, but the thinking is you probably can break 2 outdoors. Do you have any idea? It's tough to say because the season got cut short, but how fast do you think you can run maybe in the next year, in the next few months? Like, or do you feel like you're in sub 2 shape?
I would say maybe not in the immediate moment, but I definitely feel like that's something that I can do. I think even towards the end of indoor season, like I was rounding out. I don't know, like I mean, you can't really say like, oh, I would have done this at NCs because you just don't know how the race would have shaped up, like what the environment would have been like. But I definitely felt like I was in better shape than I was in Boston. So I think like it's just going to help motivate me to train through this period and hopefully break 2 in the future, because that is my goal and that's what I really am striving for. And I know people have said, if you did that indoor, then you can probably do this outdoor. So I need to believe that. So it's helping me.
Who are you excited to race against on the pro circuit?
Honestly, well, literally anyone, I think. I'm excited to, I think pretty much anyone in the 8 final last year, and honestly, some people that weren't even in the 8 final. I'm just excited to toe the line with girls of that caliber more consistently, and then also to just hopefully like go up an event or down an event and still be challenged equally as much or more so, which would be great too, because I think I mean, it comes together more for me when I know that I can run a good 4 or a good 15 or a good mile. So I'm also excited to race some milers too, especially. So yeah.
Do you think we'll see you in the mile and 1500 a bit next year or whenever racing comes back?
I think so. Yeah. I think that was honestly what I was training more towards during this period, just because it's a little bit easier to train towards that, just without a track. Honestly, when I was in Philly, so kind of training towards the mile and moving up and focusing on strength just made more sense anyway. So it's definitely something that I want to try in the future and hopefully a couple times. So we'll see.
And I know you're on the Brooks Beast team. Obviously, that was announced last week. But I'm wondering, now that you're out in Seattle, like, are you running with the team right now? Is the group meeting as a whole unit, given the the COVID restrictions and everything? What are the logistics you're going through every day with your running?
Yeah, I will be training with them. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like yet, but I do know that I have a workout today. So I'm excited and nervous about that. But yeah, so I think I know that throughout this period, they were kind of meeting like 1 or 2 people at a time, and I think now we're transitioning to meeting more as a group, which is kind of another reason why I wanted to come out during this time, just because it's we're able to do that more so now than we were earlier this year. So yeah.
One of the fun things of turning professional is your first gear drop. Did you get a massive truckload of clothes and shoes? Like you were a
I
kid on
got
Christmas?
a lot of shoes, and I got some clothes, and then I think I was like, wait, don't send me anything because I'm coming. I'm coming over there, and I have to move it all over there. So it's more fun to get it here when I don't have to ship it. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Wearing some of the gear now, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, those $50 bag fees add up a lot when you have pairs and pairs of shoes.
They do, yeah.
What outside of running, what are you most excited to see or do in Seattle?
I don't know. Maybe just explore. I definitely want to go on a couple of hikes. I hear that's gonna be quite a scene, and like maybe check out some mountain ranges, because I think every single time I drive by, like everyone's like, oh, that's that mountain and that's that mountain. I wanna go over there and kind of like explore. Yeah, I don't really know what else. I'm still learning, I guess. But I think right now just nature walks is pretty much all you really can do during COVID-19. So we're gonna start there.
Yeah. And are you prepared for every teammate to ask you, like, because you're a nursing major, like, hey, so what should I do about this, or what should I do about that? I mean, does that get it? Maybe teammates at Penn already did that. Does that ever get annoying?
Yeah, that did happen a lot at Penn, but I don't think that'll happen here because we have a pretty good trainer. Sarah's pretty great, so she gets all those questions. Don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, Nia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's bright and early where you're at, so we really appreciate it. Good luck going forward with the rest of your, I guess, season if there is one, and congratulations on signing the new contract.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nia. See you soon. All right, that was our guest, Nia Akins, joining us from a rare sunny day in Seattle. Ironically enough, complete thunderstorms here in Austin, Texas.
I know, right?
We switched weather. It was interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, I know. She kept looking outside. I was like, gosh, it is so nice and bright out there. Are you sure she's in Seattle? That's not what it looks like there typically. So yeah, that's a good get for the Brooks Beasts, and congrats to her for signing the first pro contract for a 2020 collegiate. That's a good thing to have next to your name.
Yeah, a lot of reasons to be optimistic about her career. You guys talked about it before when she announced going pro. She's going to have an opportunity to train day in, day out with high level, high caliber runners, right? Like, and at Penn, when you run too flat in the NCAA, there's not really many people who can train with you, right? That's just common knowledge. Now she'll have more people to do it. The burden of school is off, although she seems like a person who's going to keep working long hours regardless. I saw in one interview that said she had a lot, when she was at Penn, really had to work around that nursing schedule, especially when she had to do her hours. So a lot of reasons to think. I think she's going to smash 2 minutes the next full season we get, and I think this is going to be someone who's going to be contending for teams for many, many years to come.
Yeah, if her degree was any impediment, you would think, getting that done. And I know she said she's still going to pursue that, but if you are able to get off your feet less than you were when she was trying to get that nursing degree.
Sure.
I know she said she's taking her boards and is still planning on, maybe doing a part-time thing, but we know being on your feet, it can take its toll. So you would think an environment with an elevated competition and practice. Yeah. And I think the fact that, she's dropped so much time the last couple of years, that's just a really good sign that she's got star potential.
Yeah. I think it's just starting for her because, yeah, you look at how much she improved from high school to college. You look at still how much left there is to. She's not burned out at this point. Obviously, very, very, very promising next couple of years for her. Certainly. I wanted to ask you: did you see this Hamburg Marathon news?
Yeah, I just saw it come across this morning. I've just started to dive into it a little bit. There's some curious particulars if you want to go over those.
Yeah, David Monti wrote an article about it with those aforementioned particulars. So they're going to go ahead with this Hamburg Marathon in Germany, which is going to be in September. There'll be 30 elites. The mass race for the marathon will be capped at 10,000, and there will be 4,000 in the half marathon. They're going to start staggered over a 30-minute window, and 1,000 people will go at a time, 10 minutes apart. That's how they're going to do it. Although I don't know how you get to 10,000 then in 30 minutes, but we'll leave the math to them.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Maybe that's German math, not American math.
I'm not good at math, but that does not equal. Anyway, I want to read, though, the most interesting paragraph from David's story here, which is, moreover, all participants will be given a tubular scarf with a breathing filter. These must be worn over the nose and mouth in the event area, including the start and the finish areas, During the race, runners must have these with them and put them over mouth and nose after they cross the finish line. Also, no open drinks or individual food. I think you should have to put it on before you cross the finish line to add an added degree of difficulty at the end. You must pull up your tubular scarf, otherwise your chip time does not end.
Yeah. Well, I kind of thought on the first read, that's kind of what I thought. I was like, well, that's gonna be awkward when it's like a kick finish like we saw last year in the men's Boston Marathon, and one guy forgets to put up his tubular scarf. Some faces may be more form-fitting to tubular scarves than others, but it sounds like you just need to put it up right after you get across. To me,
have you ever heard the term tubular scarf?
No, I haven't. This is a first for me. And there's been a lot of firsts in this last, 6 months. So I've embraced it, but, no, I've just been going with the mask, but I do see a lot of people with scarves. So I guess they're kind of embracing that trend. I don't know. Tubular. I'm guessing that just means it stretches, like when it's laid out flat, it looks like a tube. Yeah. That makes sense.
Great use of context clues by you there.
Yeah, great. I just figured that out right in front of you. Thanks for watching my TED Talk. This seems kind of ill-advised to me. I know they're taking precautions, and I know other countries. We're here in the U.S. where we're basically back into disaster zone. But I'm surprised they're doing this. I mean, I know it's great to have sports back in some way or form, but is this really necessary? I guess is my question. Like, what you're going through so many precautions. And I don't know. They're having to do so much work to make this happen. Who is asking for the Hamburg Marathon this badly that we need to risk an outbreak in Germany for this?
Well, So last year they only had 10,079 finishers, and this time they're going to allow 10,000 starters. So it's not that dramatic of a number decrease, and I suppose the thinking is, well, if we can do this safely while having the same amount of people, they can make the economics work here for this race. It's Germany. It's not the U.S. I'm not familiar with where they're at. I know the Bundesliga has been going on for quite a bit there. This is a different scenario when you're talking about mass races versus a marathon. And the Berlin Marathon is, well, that's in a temporary holding pattern, correct? Because they said it's supposed to be September 27th, and they haven't announced anything. So this could mean potential Berlin Marathon, which could mean bigger name elites.
Yeah.
I saw the UK today relaxed some of their restrictions. We're obviously watching that because of the potential Bekele Kipchoge race. Although, man, I wonder what type of shape these elites are in. Because we talk about track, and it's like, if they show up, they show up. And if they run, they get a couple races in. You're not just going to wander onto the start line of a marathon if you're not prepared for it. And also, you don't really get that many either. And you have to think, do I want to use one of my few marathons in my career? Eliud Kipchoge has several more, so he doesn't need to worry about this. But most mortals, they only have a few. Is this when you're going to want to use one and do a truncated preparation, or are you going to wait till the spring? I wonder about it from the elite side of things.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about Kipchoge, like you said, just because he races twice a year typically anyways, and he's either running 201 in a major, or he's running 159 in an exhibition. So he'll show up ready for whatever. My questions with this Hamburg Marathon, I didn't read the full press release, so I guess I need to educate myself. Are they going to allow, assuming they're allowing people to fly in from wherever to go to this? I mean, just because. I mean,
that's they have to follow the restrictions of the government.
Well, I'm just saying, just because there's been
there's been low cases in
the area.
Sorry, yeah. Well, no. And the question is that you want to keep the cases low. You don't want it to come back, so you don't want to do something where it's going to come back. Yeah.
I think of with tennis got a lot of grief recently because Novak Djokovic over the weekend or something last week hosted this, abbreviated tournament in Serbia, where cases have been low and there's been no restrictions. They had a bunch of people in the crowd watching, and lo and behold, several of the tennis players, including Novak Djokovic, have now tested positive for the coronavirus. So just because we go to a place that's got the coronavirus under control doesn't mean an outbreak can't happen. I'm surprised by this, and we'll see. As we know, everything changes now. This is, to me, kind of a bold announcement of something that's still, 2.5 months, 3 months away.
Yeah.
I could see this not happening. I mean, just things are so bad in the U.S. right now. I know people would like to be optimistic. I know the death rate's going down, but infections are just skyrocketing here, and we're not going to be the only country where people make mistakes. I'll be surprised if this happens. I'm sorry. I'm just not the guy. I don't take this as, oh, this is great news. Sure. Is it great that we can maybe have a running event? Yes. However, it comes with all these caveats. Are we taking unnecessary risks to have a guy come in and run 2:08 the Hamburg Marathon? It seems like it's as of right now. Yes. And I know if Gordon Mack was on this, he'd cite his snake oil statistics as to why it's not dangerous. But let's face it. Like, can we just, I know all these pro sports are coming back, and then every other day it's, Jimmy Superstar tests positive and 7 of his teammates. Like, are we just going to, we're coming to the point where, are we just going to be okay with the coronavirus spreading all over? Are we just okay with that and people dying? Because that's what it seems like.
Yeah. Well, this is, and we've talked about this before, this is different than other pro events because there's not really any other sport where the masses and the elites mix together closely. Now, they could sit in the stands. You're mentioning Novak Djokovic doing this event where people were sitting in the stands, and that's not that far away. But the same start area, the same finish area, the same course is used by the elites as it is by the mass race. But as we talked about before, the mass race is what helps fund the elites. And you need that in order to have the mass race. You brought up a good point, though. We're talking about something in September, and this is the middle of June. Yeah. And I think everything is tentative. Yeah. And the only definites are things that get canceled. Right? Boston Marathon, they canceled it. We know it's not going to happen in the fall. They're not going to put it back on the schedule. Postponements in this era are still tentative. And we will be in a completely different place, I think, in one direction or the other come September. And it's not like they can't get to August and then cancel this thing. They've already postponed it once. They could just do an out and out cancellation. But I don't know enough about what's going on in Germany, or you're right, how many people from out of the country typically participate in this event. 10,000. Well, 10,000 people is, for a major marathon, is not that big.
No,
that's not that large of a marathon. I'm guessing most people from the United States, even if they had designs on running a hamburger marathon at some point, if that was on their bucket list, this would not be the year to do it.
No.
Tubular scarves, though. Tubular scarves. It's the year of the tubular scarf.
Might be investing in the tubular scarf market. Yeah, I know it's outside, obviously, but they talk about the whatever it is, the mist. We create all the water droplets even when we talk. I mean, in those crowds of 1,000, there's going to be people deep, breathing heavily. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm on board with this. I'm not going to Hamburg for this marathon. I can tell you that.
We will not send you to Hamburg for this marathon, Lincoln. Rest assured.
I don't need to be the Hamburg correspondent.
I still think it's, U.S. meets, I think, are going to come back. Pro meets are going to come back at some point. And I've always wondered, college or road racing. And for a while there, college looked like okay, this will come back before road racing for this exact reason that we're talking about, the hurdles that exist with road racing. Now, not so sure about that, because on the college side of things, with the football players coming back, and everybody's seen that with positive tests and things getting shut down. So I think both of them are in a tricky spot, but it is noteworthy that this will be the first big-ish marathon that would come back. But from our perspective, as people who are really, really interested in the elite side of things, you're right. If you're a big time runner, I don't think you're going to be risking everything to run in the Hamburg Marathon this year.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
Think of what marathons you have to choose from, assuming other ones don't get canceled. You have Chicago, Berlin, London, New York, right? You have way more than you normally do to choose from. So I don't know why. Bekele's not going to end up at the Hamburg Marathon. I could eat my words in a month or two, but I don't think he's going to end up there.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke about how
Go ahead.
Running with the coronavirus and wearing alpha flies cancel each other out, so we don't have to worry about shoe takes when you're dealing with a disease as such. That's kind of a little insensitive, so I won't do that. I'll just say that I thought about it. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, I'm not for this.
Gordon wanted us to talk about this tweet he made about 4x1 teams made up of pro athletes from different sports. Do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to wait until tomorrow and you can talk about it with him?
So the goal of it was to determine which you get 4 athletes from all the major sports leagues, including like NASCAR and golf. And when I guess we're not major sports, those aren't the major sports. And we're being asked with who's going to win. Isn't it pretty obvious that football would win? I don't understand what the question is.
Well, he listed the names and he did it in the font that you see for normal entries. So I think that's we got to applaud him for that. He also made a good point yesterday on the podcast. I don't know if you listened to it. So he's gaining some momentum. Gordon is gaining some momentum, just a very small amount. He's got Team PGA, Team MLB, UFC, NFL, NBA, MLS, NHL, and NASCAR are his teams. Now he puts people in here, but they're not necessarily the best. Like you would not put LeBron James on the NBA team.
No,
but I think he just.
I'm going to need guys that are 6 feet tall.
Yeah, he's got De'Aaron Fox, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James. Also, a Kyrie Irving to LeBron James baton pass would be a disaster.
That's a drop.
That's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
NFL, Goodwin Ginn, Jackson Hill. NHL, Johnny Gaudreau, Taylor Hall, Matt Duchesne, and Connor McDavid.
Just a classic NHL 4x1 there. It's just who could deny.
Well, you tell me about this MLB team because you're an MLB guy. Hamilton, Harper, Trout, Buxton.
No, you're going to need Trey Turner on that. Hamilton's good. Trey Turner needs to be on that and is good. Trout's fast, but he's way too big. I forget the guy we always talk about that you said was your favorite Cubs player at the time he was on the Cubs for a while. I always forget his name because he was on Terrence Gore. He would need to be on there. So it would be Billy Hamilton, Trey Turner, Byron Buxton, and Terrence Gore. That's a solid group. That's pretty good. They could maybe keep up. I just worry about with the NFL having Tyreek Hill on the anchor. He's like a legit sprinter. So
do they beat Team PGA though, who has noted sprint extraordinaire Rory McIlroy on their team?
Why are those guys on there? And there's a Bubba Watson and Tiger's on the anchor. Tiger, he's known for a comeback or two. Yeah, this is stupid. Why is not professional table tennis on there? Like
MLS, I don't know enough about, but I would guess they would be decent. I guess the question is who gets second? Who gets second?
So it's between MLB or MLS. I would pick the baseball guys. Those guys are really fast.
Someone wrote in a compelling argument at one point on another podcast I do about NHL people being quick. And I could see that too. Just the explosive.
They know they're on ice though, right?
They're not on ice in this one.
This is going to be that's what I'm saying. Those guys are on ice. I mean, they would have to be on the ground, and I think you take away their skates, you lose a little bit of the speed, right?
Yeah. They're definite sub 10 guys on ice. I can vouch for that. I've done a couple sub 10s on ice.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know how fast they were in real life. I think NBA guys, and MLB guys would be close. We really get excited about NBA guys, and then we remember the court is 94 feet long.
Yeah.
And there's a long way to go to get even to 100. And I'm not well with this specific team. Well, I don't know because for the MLB team, you also have Mike Trout and Bryce Harper on there for some reason, just in the same way you have LeBron on there for some reason, just for
I guess the
eyeballs.
star power. I mean, Mike Trout's
Yeah.
fast, but he's a little too. I need like really quick guys, and I'm not having Bryce Harper on my team. I think that's a Philadelphia bias there for Gordon. Was there a NASCAR team too? Did I miss that?
Yes. Yep. Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott leading off. What do you think of that decision to have Chase Elliott there?
That's good. It's going to be tough to run in their sponsor suits. What's that?
Restrictor plates. Yeah, I was just naming everything I know about NASCAR. I don't know a lot, but yeah, running in the sponsor suits would be interesting. I will go NFL number 1. Now, am I doing this based on your team or the teams on here?
Oh, that's
I'll go
a good
NBA.
question.
I'll go NBA, then I'll go NHL, then I'll go MLB, just based on these teams. Then I'll go UFC, then MLS, UFC, NASCAR, and I'll have PGA getting 8th, but scoring 1 point. 1 point for the team competition.
I mean, we definitely think last is between NASCAR and the PGA, right?
Yeah.
Tiger Woods did run track in high school for a little bit.
He did? Okay.
Yeah, for a little bit. Ran some track. But I don't know about Bubba Watson.
I ran track in high school. That would not get me anywhere near any of these athletes. So, yeah, I don't know. Like Gordon definitely skewed young on these rosters for PG. Like he could have gone with, I don't know, who's an old golfer out there.
Jack Nicklaus.
He could have. He didn't go him. And they're fit. They're in shape. I don't know how much running they're doing.
Yeah.
And similarly with the NASCAR, I think outside of track, we always get this when people are arguing with us about how fast someone is, and we're like, "No, you can't beat Usain Bolt," and they're like, "No, they're in really good shape. They run," and you're like, "Okay, great, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm happy that they run." There's a long way from they run, they're in good shape, to being faster than the fastest man in the world. Some might say it's an impossible stretch that you have to make. Even someone like, let's just take this NFL team. Let's just take Ted Ginn Jr., Deshaun Jackson. Right? It's a long way to go to get from I'm in good shape to I could beat Deshaun Jackson or Ted Ginn Jr. Right?
Yeah.
So NASCAR guy, hey, maybe they can bench 300. Maybe they work out, they do cardio, they're ready to go. But you got some serious sprinting in this heat. I'll say it.
Yeah, I just would want to know how much work Gordon put into that, and what he could have maybe done more productively in the meantime. But dude, the guy likes to bump his Reddit numbers. It's important to him, so I guess all respect to him there.
It's getting a lot of engagement. Someone said, this person, maybe they know a lot about UFC, but it says McGregor and Khabib would be wrestling in the exchange zone mid-race. So that's some UFC stuff that I don't know about. Someone says Team 8, NASCAR literally goes 200 miles per hour. So there we go. Yeah. This person, Anthony, says, why would you put Kyrie and LeBron on that list? There's faster people in the NBA. I hear you, Anthony. I hear you. Step into mine in Lincoln's world. This Brett says 4, 2, and 6, which would be 4, 2, and 6 would be NFL, MLB, and then MLS. So they have MLS up there. I'll admit, I think MLS would do really well in a 4x8. I think they would do really well in a 4x8.
Yeah, they say they run like 10 miles a game or 5 miles a game. One of those mile numbers. Yeah, I always used to hear that from in high school about, well, we're in cross country shape because we run 7 miles a game or whatever from my high school friends. But put that to the test 4x8.
You know what they should have done? Split this up into 2 heats. Put the NFL with 3 other teams in 1 heat. The second heat, like add Bolt to like the PGA team or something like that.
There you go.
That way,
There you
Ted Ginn can say he beat Usain Bolt again, even though they're in separate heats on a relay. We could do that again.
He is. He will die on that one, won't he? The separate heat beating Usain Bolt thing is a thing
In a relay.
that I never thought I would hear. In a relay is pretty unfathomable. But yeah, I guess if we get Bolt on the PGA team, the Bolt to Bubba Watson. I mean, Bubba Watson to Usain Bolt is the handoff I didn't know I needed, but I would love to see it.
That's a clickbait headline if I've ever heard it. Any other sports that you'd like to add to this? I like to add track, personally.
Track to this. Wow. See, they say you don't think of the obvious things for what's the most obvious place you should look there, and then you just went ahead and said it. Yeah. Even if we have to take out our friend Christian Coleman, who may be provisionally suspended, I think track's got a pretty good shot at winning this 4x1.
Yeah. You could just run this 2x2 and they'd be fine. Swimming, you want to throw swimming on there? We could do tennis. We talked tennis earlier on the pod.
Andy Murray would, on your show, Andy Murray, legendary speed.
His trainer once said he has the fastest first 10 meters ever recorded. So this is a real quote. People can go look that up. That was said and written down. Because we all have been out there taking our 10 meter splits. Andy Murray, I don't know. Go. Oh, stop. Okay. Just incredible first step. What about your second step? Don't need it. I'm only going 10. Yeah. I'm only going 10.
Don't worry about it.
No need for that. No need for that second step.
Nothing good happens after 10 meters.
That's what the saying is. I guess we should leave it there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
All right.
And thanks to Nia Akins for joining us. Well, I started reading something on my phone. And I forgot I was on a podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast name is the FloTrack Podcast. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. Gordon and Lincoln will be on tomorrow, and we took away most of the topics for tomorrow. So they are going to be flying blind. It's going to be great unless something happens between now and then.
Yeah. All right. We'll see.
You excited for that one? I just see regret in your face.
Gordon we'll debate whether grass is green or the sky is blue. So we can always find things to talk about. It's good.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next time.